Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism, going to do a new book review here. Actually, it's series 60, part 5. So part 1, 2, 3, 4 was on this book. Earth. Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library. Barbara Marciniak, if I'm saying that correctly. The one I'm going to make today, part 5, is Bringers of the Dawn, Teaching from the Pleiadians. Who are the Pleiadians? Beings, light beings? Do they have spaceships? Have they been involved with Earth historically? Are they involved with Earth right now? What are the changes that are taking place? The planned new age, the new world order, the paradigm shift. What is Barbara Marciniak, who apparently channels these Pleiadian entities? And also, if you go watch her videos on YouTube, when she makes her opening, she goes, "We are here. I welcome the pixies and the Pleiadians and the angels and all these other beings." And then she has this thing on some of her videos. I keep showing this here. That turns around like a 5-pointed wiry cage or crystal that's called a Merkaba. Just like in the previous video I just made, 120 part 3, Major Trends in Jewish Mysticism, they talk about the Merkaba. Either it's also described as a chariot of God, glowing chariot in the sky, historically mentioned in the Bible and other ancient books, even in India. Or God's throne glowing. Information in the Book of Enoch, the Merkaba, Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. Apparently, technologies, witchcraft if you will, on how to communicate with beings from the invisible reality, the unknown reality, another dimension, another plane of existence. And are these planes of existence merging with this plane of existence right now? And for those who want to ascend, will it be a nice, smooth merger? And for those who resist, it'll be like hitting a brick wall. That's what it says in this book. So what's coming? What's true? Remember, in the Bible, it says that God never changes. He doesn't change his mind. He doesn't change the rules, if you want to believe the Bible. This stuff and these other materials that I've gone over, different subjects, different topics, different books, psychic abilities, channelers, prophets. They talk about there is a new paradigm. There are new rules. The old system is, well, old. No longer in use. And again, there will be those who go along with the change. The new rules. I was just looking at a press release that came out yesterday. See if I can see it right here on my computer. I'll pull up the Word document. I save all this stuff. Alright, this is just yesterday now. So we talk about people accepting the new rules and some people not accepting it, not going along. In 2017, gay marriage is more popular than ever with the Republicans. That's what it says. It's got a picture of a flag. You can look that up. The exact title is, in 2017, gay marriage is more popular than ever with Republicans. When I copied it yesterday, 2 hours ago and 29 minutes. So I don't even look for this stuff. When I check my email, there's usually 4 or 5 press release bars right there. That's all I click on. But they put it right at the top so that everybody will see it. It's a form of mind control, which we are going to see. Any doubt that the progressive tides are changing in America? It helps to back up and look at the bigger picture. Sure, the next 4 years, for there will be 4 years, under the Trump administration are likely to yield some pretty serious regressions to women's rights, unrelenting attacks on health care, a fewer protections for transgender children, and the possible endangerment of the LGBTQ rights as we know them. Amid all this bleakness, you got to give these writers credit. Though a new study offers a silver lining of sorts. Our fellow Americans, yet even the Republicans, are much more progressive than we think they are. This week, the Pew, P-E-W Research Center, released new data on how Americans view same-sex marriage. So in my opinion, the polls are rigged. It depends on which circle you go ask these questions. You go to the Christian belt, Bible belt in northern Georgia, you're probably going to get one answer, and if you go to LA, you're going to get another answer. And then, of course, the press release the other day, I'm looking at my computer again. Let's see if it's here. Okay, this is just 2 days ago. So this is relenting, and I'm not trying to be anti-gay here. I'm just trying to say this is the news that shows up on the top bars. And there's other topics like global warming, threats of World War III, immigration, just things they're trying to mess with our minds about, in my opinion. Germany legalizes same-sex marriage after Merkel makes a U-turn. And let's see what it says here, just a couple sentences. There's a point for reading this before I do the material from these Pleiadian beings. So 2 days ago, Germany lawmakers voted Friday to legalize same-sex marriage. A move widely supported across the country that brings Germany in line with many of its Western peers. Chancellor Angela Merkel voted against the measure, but paved the way for its passage by allowing members of her Conservative Party to vote according to their conscience. Lawmakers voted 393 to 226 to legalize marriage for everybody. So there are a lot of other press releases here that I was talking about. Russia warns it will treat U.S. coalition jets as if they're the enemy after the U.S. jets shot down a Syrian jet the other day. Eric Holder joins the anti-Trump resistance. And then Israel boasts of unimaginable power in future wars. And the United Nations chief says the U.S. will be replaced if it disengages, even in the global warming issue. So we have a set of press releases and other material, TV program, movies, magazine articles, talk shows, where it's an orchestrated line of thought, which I call teaching propaganda. Somebody wants to sway the way we think from the way we were, which is called a paradigm shift. So again, before I start reading from the book, I went to my bookcases behind me and over there in this whole room, 500 books, and just grabbed a couple so we could look at the covers. Books I haven't read, some of them I've looked at, future videos. But I am extensively investigating the channeled material. And here's another book I received in the mail that I have to do. Tuning In. A journalist and 6 trance channelers and messages from the other side. This is becoming quite popular. Now think about history. You know, there were prophets before Jesus. Jesus said to the Jewish Pharisees, the leaders, ye are the killers of your prophets. The prophets were communicating with the other world. Tuning in is communicating with the other world. Barbara Marciniak is communicating with the other world. Cryon material that I've been going over, making videos on, is communicating with the other world. Seth, Jane Roberts, communicating with the other world. Abraham, Esther Hicks, communicating with the other world. The raw material, communicating with the other world. And others. I've made a long list of all these different channelers. And so all these channelers are communicating with the other world. Whether they use a Merkaba system, some kind of crystal, like shamans use drugs, or just some people with a natural propensity, a born greater psychic ability, like Nikola Tesla and many others, Edgar Cayce, who can communicate with the other side. So what are they saying? Closer to the light. And I'm doing this because a lot of people tell me, yeah, Rick, something's going on, but we don't know what. Who can you trust? So I think with all these book reviews, at least it's a sound foundation to stand on, that these books do exist. Some of them are swaying you towards this new paradigm, away from the old paradigm. Propaganda. Is it sincere, trying to change the world? Was the old way really bad? Was Jesus just a myth? Should Christianity be just demolished, erased, demonized? So closer to the light. You can get these books on used book sites or bookstores. Learning from a near-death experience of children. So you don't think all these children in this book were lying after they died and were brought back to life at a hospital, or maybe they drowned in a pool and somebody gave them CPR. You think they were all lying? And there's many books on these topics. I haven't read this one yet. I'm intrigued. I am a psychic researcher of sorts. I believe I can use a pendulum for certain things. Finding water, walking across the field, thinking with my mind, is there water underground here? Is there water? And when you find the pendulum starts to gyrate, you put a stake in the ground, and then you continue walking, then you come over a few feet, and you come back, and where you see it again, you put a stake in the ground, and you cross the whole field that way. And when you get back and you step back, you look, and you can see the path of the stakes. Like we know rivers are not straight because of eddy currents and things like that. They kind of snake around. So underground they do the same thing. So you can see the stakes on the surface of the ground, and then if you need to drill a well, and this has been going on for thousands of years, the well driller will ask you, where do you want me to drill a hole? And you can tell them right there, and you're more likely to find water. And I have many books on this topic. I've researched it for more than 10 years. And the same technologies were used in Britain and Germany, elsewhere in the world, to find minerals like gold or tin, copper, in their natural form. And even some psychics or dowsers or priests use this technology to even track down criminals. And because of one case where they tracked down a couple murderers, I guess it scared the Catholic Church. So the Pope banned divining dowsing. Later on it was approved again, because a lot of the priests were finding water for orphanages and local municipalities whose water supply dried up. they would send out a dowser. Even the military during the Vietnam War were using dowsers to find underground caves of the Vietnamese where they would hide weapons and hide themselves. So there's something real, and is using a pendulum just another form of communicating with these other reality. So that's why I'm saying I'm interested in astral dynamics. A new approach to out-of-body experiences. Now, with all this said, we know secret societies swear an oath under threat of death, having their throat cut, not to divulge the secrets, and apparently it's based on mysticism and Kabbalahism and a sort of witchcraft and all this other stuff. So these elitist Illuminati, high-level Freemasonry people, not all the lower levels, and Zionist people, Jesuits maybe, Rosicrucians, Kabbalist people, mysticism, and are they using these beings, these communications, these technologies, these abilities, these secrets to the detriment of the rest of us? Dark secrets of the New Age. I'm not the only one aware of this, and I'm making videos sharing it in my series because I believe it's a huge part of my series, Freemasonry and Satanism, which could have been called the Illuminati and Luciferianism, secret societies, and the Zionism and the communism, controlling the United Nations and thousands of secret societies all over the world, our politicians, the banking systems, assassinating presidents like President John Kennedy, who said in his famous speech, secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life. A New Age primer. It's all kinds of teachings, getting people to be in this awakening. Occult visions. A mystical gaze into the future. Elaine Lander. What year was this book? Looks like an ex-library book. When you get books on used book sites, you never know what you're going to get. Some interesting inserts inside the books, personal letters, you don't know. Alright, so when was this? Occult Visions. Library of Congress. 1979. So they've known about this stuff for a while. A lot of people out there at large are not aware of it. Lynn McTaggart, The Field, The Quest for the Secret Forces of the Universe. McTaggart presents a hard evidence for what spiritual masters have been telling us for centuries. Develop your psychic abilities. So people are voluntarily, enthusiastically pursuing developing their psychic abilities and communicating with beings on the other side. Least we not forget, there are other books on these subjects. The History of Witchcraft, The Strategy of Satan, then Helena Blavatsky, Isis Unveiled, thought it was revealed, or The Secret Doctrine, who created the Theophist Society along with some others, and created the publishing company called Lucifer Publishing Company, then changed the name to Lucas Publishing Company, and Lucas means light also, and Lucifer is the light being, and published Lucifer magazine on used book sites. You can go find some of them old magazines. I've got a few. The Handbook of Higher Consciousness. I've been reading this one. I'm not really opposed to people learning to communicate, but even Jesus said you have to test the spirits. So if you're communicating with an angel or a demon, how do you know? The demon's not going to act like a demon. Even people in our lives, some of the nastiest ones, sinister ones, appear to be the nicest people, charming, will compliment you from head to toe, make you want to be their friend. But they tend to be backstabbers. From my years of experience, wheels of light, the chakra system, raising the Kundalini. You say, Rick, all this can't be that bad. Well, think about this for a minute. Hitler, who had the Thule Society, was communicating with this other world and got a lot of those high technologies. The Jewish mysticism, who also adhered to the Kabbalah and the Talmuds and Zohar, some not too friendly books for non-Jewish people, are communicating with the divine. Let's see what else I got here. The mind possessed. A physiology of possession. Mysticism and faith healing. So there could be a lot of good to this stuff. But how do you know? And just because this stuff is becoming popular and channeling is becoming popular, astrology is really popular on the internet, the new technologies and computers and all that. These guys are very personable and will tell you all about your day and your life. Whether moon is ascending or descending, or in conjunction with this or in conjunction with that. Is it good or bad? Beware familiar spirits. An investigation into the occult and psychic phenomena. I've got a lot to read. Crystal enlightenment. The transforming properties of crystals and healing stones. Reincarnation in Venice. The author of Reincarnation of Peter Proud. Lots of books to read out there. Look at that being. Ancient mystery cults. See the serpent next to the word mystery cults? I think that's an accident. Recovering the soul, a scientific and spiritual search. Written by an MD, Larry Dorsey, MD. Growing into the light. Remember that word light when I'm reading. Max Long. Max Freedom Long. And I got to do these series eventually. The Voice of Eros. The Pulse of Creation series. Ernest Norman. I have 4 of these already. Got one more to order to have the series, I believe. So this is just the opening. And we know they're trying to bring about a paradigm shift right now, the new age, the new world order. And you got people like Saul Alinsky, a pragmatic primer for realistic radicals. So these forces mention being a radical. You can get a book on it. So you think the change taking place on the planets by accident? The late great planet Earth. You think? What do we think? What should we think? What should we know? should we be concerned? Or should we just allow the forces, whoever they are, whoever they might be, with all the symbolism on TV, movies, celebrating tunnel openings, CERN, that weird, bizarre ritual and ceremony, the Eurovision contest like the American Idol 2014, Conchita Wurst, go look it up, putting a big goat on a Hoover Dam. The goat's a symbol for the devil. The goddess of destruction, Shiva, on the Empire State Building. When they passed some kind of legislation for the gay agenda, gigantic rainbow colors even over the White House and many buildings all over the country. They were prepared for that. It's some kind of mind control programming paradigm shift. And I'm asking, have they convinced everybody that this shift is the right thing to do? And if it is a 50-50 split all around the world, will there be a mass revolution? And who will be the winner? All the forces of the new shift, satanic and Luciferianism, do as thou will, the Gainbow agenda, transgenderism, all this progressive liberalism, will they be the winners, and will they slaughter all the Christians and other decent people who adhere to God's law and promote family values? Or will the good people, the Christians and other good religious people and people oriented towards family value and decency and standards of living like the Ten Commandments, will they win and kill all these people? Because obviously, like it says in this material I'm going to read, some people will go along. When I read from Barbara Marciniak's book, Bringers of the Dawn, channeling these Pleiadian entities, listen to the words, what I'm saying, and keep in your mind this opening. Because if you just read the book, you get caught up in it and believe that, wow, I am divine. I can manifest the world. I can go convince all these people to shift over too. And if they don't shift, they're going to get diseases and die. Because it's just not their time anymore. They got to go. Is it a cosmic battle between good and evil? It appears likely. All right, beginning with the book here. Bringers of the Dawn, Barbara Marciniak, if I'm saying the name right, teaching from the Pleiadians. Chapter 13, Whose Purpose Are You? So Barbara's channeling the Pleiadians. Looks like the star system Pleiades up there in the corner on this book. So I thought I'd read from this chapter and discuss some things and see what you think. I think I've learned a little bit from reading it once and then reading it twice and taking learning points. No kidding, look at this, learning points. Learning points. Learning points. See where it says page 1? Keys from the Living Library. Keywords from Bringers of the Dawn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of just keywords that I want to talk about if I have time at the end of this video. So whose purpose are you? What about this paradigm shift that we all see? Even the TV programming, Gotham, Modern Family, Lucifer, the Hunger Games movie. I could go on, but the viciousness, the killing, the slaughtering, the portraying of humanity as just ugly beast. And then, of course, with the governments, sustainability, biodiversity, global warming, terrorism, pole shifting, earthquakes, terror threats, UFO, aliens, and so much more. World War III, New Age, New World Order, tear down the borders. All the propaganda newspapers pitting one party against the other, whites and blacks, religious, non-religious, progressives, conservatives, Germany, Russia, China, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, demonizing one country after another, North Korea. I don't think we people have too many moments in each day to just relax, if you pay attention. And all these overloads do affect we the people, our biological and psychological existence, our lives. There is ramifications. There is effects from these causes. And there are causes of these effects. We said that you exist for a purpose. Page 139. Whose purpose? Did you ever think of that one? Whose purpose are you? So here's Barbara channeling the Pleiadians. What do these entities have to say? Is she channeling these entities really? Or has she studied the secret doctrine, mysticism, the Kabbalah, and is she making all this up to try to promote this New Age and New World Order as part of the secret societies and other people who want to control the planet in a New Age and New World Order? Should we ask those kinds of questions? You have a purpose because all aspects of consciousness are connected to one another. So I do believe there is a ripple effect. Like the 100 monkeys syndrome. On one particular island, they were teaching monkeys on how to wash avocados so they could eat them, or peel avocados. And after they taught about 100 monkeys, like a flash of lightning all over the island, on the other side of the island, all the monkeys knew how to peel the avocado, for example. I've heard several versions of this story. So is there a group spirit, a group soul? If they reach a certain threshold, numbers of people with this liberalism, progressivism, new paradigm thinking, Jesus was a myth, Christianity's old hat, old news, no longer needed, and the people who refuse to accept the new paradigm, well, they must just perish. And their souls will move off into some other wonderland, if you read the material. So it's okay for them to perish. In other words, be killed, murdered. Because it's all for the greater good. Those people can go get stuck on some planet where they won't join the new shift, new paradigm, transgenderism, globalism, sustainability, communism. Because I do believe everybody is being beguiled. The promises they're making are not going to be kept. And if you don't believe that, just look at all the countries where the leaders have been overthrown. It never got better for those people. Matter of fact, like Iraq or Syria and many others, the numbers just keep going up and up and up and up. They have the revolution here in the United States like they did in Russia and China and many other countries. The death was just astronomical. They are concerned with population. And they would have people believe there's just too many people on the planet. People buy the propaganda. You have purpose because all aspects of consciousness are connected to one another. None exist outside the system. They are all parts of the whole. That is the purpose we want you to seek. The essence of the vehicle you occupy. So they're saying you occupy your human body, and they're calling that a vehicle. I've been saying all along we are biological beings with these spiritual bodies encompassing us, inside or outside, or all of us. Like if you see the auric field, it goes like this. And the energy you generate, so we all generate energy. when we take in food and light and we think that radiates energy and different emotions. Love radiates a particular frequency. Hate radiates a different frequency, and so forth. Rage, compassion. So what will they have us do? If we look at the TV program, we can see the emotions they want us to radiate aren't that nice. There's no love and all that in a lot of those movies, unless you want to consider Brokeback Mountain. The essence of the vehicle you occupy and the energy you generate are part of a development sequence that you can say has a purpose for your personal search in life. But what purpose do you add to the whole? Can you conceive of someone else using your purpose and growing from it? An energy that you do not know exists. This universe is interlocked in such a way that it is based on the domino system. Well, I do believe globalism will really increase that. They completely say that all systems will have to be interdependent on other systems. So if one fails, the whole system fails. And we already know what they've done with the banking system. They've crashed it 8 times since 1913 and reaped all the rewards for themselves, the Illuminati, communists, Zionists, Jewish types, and other people that get involved. So once they get total global control, will they continue to do what they have done in a much more aggressive and sinister way? Like it says in the Jewish Utopia by Professor Higgers, or the Protocols of Zion, all aspects of consciousness have gathered in this universe to affect each other, because that is the only way consciousness in this particular system can experience itself. So consciousness wants to experience itself. Is that God wants to experience itself through us, or some other being? In another system and in another universal structure, each and every type of consciousness may be completely free. So they're saying in other universes, it may not be the same as here. In other words, you could be your own and serve no purpose to anyone else. That is not true in this universe, says the Pleiadians, channeling through Barbara Marciniak. There are many different universes and themes. Just like 100 pennies make a dollar, certain collections of universes make something that is a collection of energies. Eventually, you will begin to fathom and recognize that there are whole systems of existence that have nothing to do with existence as you are working with it. This system is designed as a free will zone, within which everything is interlocking and interworking with everything else. Well, I don't know how it can be a free will zone if it's interlocking and interworking with everything else. That would be like a long chain, and one link of the chain decides not to be binding the other links, and the whole chain falls apart. So how can we have a free will zone if we're locked into a system? There are other kinds of zones which perhaps you could also call free zones, free will zones, where everything is interdependent on everything else. Here on Earth, everything is interlocked with everything else. So they're trying to bring that about with the globalization, New World Order, New Age, one world currency, one world religion, which appears to be the Luciferic religion. Some entity or deity where everybody will have to swear allegiance to or be beheaded. Look it up. Noahic laws, look it up. 30,000 guillotines being purchased by the U.S. government, look it up. Don't believe me. FEMA camps, look them up. Underground cities and tunnels, look them up. HARP transmitters, microwave transmitters, mind control, frequency control, look it all up. Gwen towers. There is much more space in a system in which everything is interdependent. independent. Or let us say there is much more awareness of space, not necessarily space. That kind of universe could in actuality be much smaller than this universe, but because it is not operating out of density, the awareness of space could be greater. So they're saying we live in this material world with gravity and flesh and blood and rocks and stones and trees. So we have a greater density than some of these other realms of existence. Your purpose is to carry information, and by carrying it, to make the information accessible to others by frequency. When we share a story with you, you end up carrying information. So when you study this material, and it changes your thinking, you carry that around with you when you do things and interact with other people. That's why they make the books and they have all the channelers. The more you become informed, the more you alter your frequency. You are electromagnetic creatures, and everything that you are, you broadcast to everyone else. Just as you can recognize someone in fear, you can recognize someone in joy as you begin to learn how to use your body to tune into this kind of recognition. And how many times have you been down at the deli counter or restaurant or anywhere where people are chit-chatting and talking? Hey, did you hear this? Did you know this? And if you think about it, and you happen to hear that on the nightly news, you know they're just parroting what they heard. They really didn't think about it. Some people, regrettably, lots of people, are very shallow. They don't look at things in a skeptical manner. You don't have to be skeptical about everything, but just remember, there seems to be a lot of deception and propaganda and beguilement in the world. Your assignment is to carry information and to evolve yourself to the highest capability within the human form. When you do this, you cannot help but affect multitudes. So these Pleiadians, through B Marciniak, want you to learn stuff and help but affect multitudes. You may feel that your particular occupation is not on a grand scale. Say, for instance, you are a waitress. Remember, things are not what they appear to be on the outside, and everyone you come in contact with is affected by your vibration. Some of you may be left in a very menial and mundane jobs for a while, or you may be led simply to be parents and guardians of your children, or you may do work that you feel is not exactly on the road to high glory. So there's all kinds of we the people out there doing all kinds of things. Yet you will have a certain time period in which you must assimilate all of this information that is indeed radical. That's the word it says here. You will have a certain time period in which you must assimilate all of this information that is indeed radical. So that information comes complements of the Pleiadians, these light being entities, through B Marciniak. So who are and what are all the other channels, and what is that information? That's why I'm going through this stuff with a fine-tooth comb, because as I do, Cryon and the Ra material, and Abraham and Buddha and all these other entities being channeled, and books and material, we'll see what the story is. You must fit into your life, you must fit it into history of your world by living it. So whatever they teach here from the Pleiadians, you need to live what they teach, perceiving it and getting used to it. Once you can consistently maintain a frequency of information and not be riding the roller coaster of emotions up and down because you don't know who you are, you will be given a task. So once they get you can get sucked into the system and the thinking and the channeled and the material, it says here on page 141, you will be given a task. You can see how I highlight stuff where my finger is. All these pages I've read with a fine-tooth comb, highlighted it and underlined in red, emphasizing material. And went through it all again, taking 6 pages of talking points. I thought about it when I was sleeping last night. I said, man, there were some talking points. There were some things that they said that needed to be put down in one-sentence terms. It will be put before you, and it will be part of your blueprint. Your blueprint is your own personal detailed plan or outline of action for this lifetime. Remember, this is from the Pleiadians, some invisible entities communicating through Barbara Marciniak. Many of you already know your blueprints and what you will be guided to do. Each of you knows your plan in the deepest portion of your life. So can you imagine you're sitting in your living room and you're listening to Barbara Marciniak in that nice monotone voice, and you're just smoothly closing your eyes and listening to her speak. Each of you knows your plan in the deepest portion of your being. Can you see it? What gets in the way of your knowing is logically thinking that you don't have the talent of your plan or that you can't do it. Can you just hear her, how it would affect you and affect others who parrot stuff they hear on the news to all their friends that this is true or that is true? We got to kill the Syrians, got to kill President Assad. The Russians are evil, the Chinese are evil, North Korea is evil. Got to monitor everybody with cameras and eventually microchips. The people in the new paradigm will go for that, and they will think all these other people are resisting, from what it says in here. If you go into a meditative state, here it goes. You will receive a picture of your identity and reality, and in the next step of your assignment day by day. So who's not into yoga these days? Who's getting into meditation? Who's not following this new age material? And if you do, you're going to get a picture in your mind and an assignment from your day to day, as it says here on page 141. Meditation is a state of communication and is not a way to get somewhere to get lost, to go somewhere to get lost. Meditation is a way to get informed and to go to a place that nourishes you. So go into a meditative state, get pictures and communication with some beings that are going to nourish you. Well, that's wonderful. I should put this book down right now and go turn on the computer, get some nice little sofa, close my eyes, lean back, communicate, meditate, and get nourished. Do you believe it? Are we certain that these entities have our best in mind? Meditation is a way to get informed and go to a place that nourishes you. You will move into your purpose, and more than likely it will have to do with facilitating the frequency, transducing it, stepping it down to others, explaining it, using it to heal others, and stabilizing it for the human race. Wow. That would certainly make somebody feel important. And again, I'm not trying to be all negative. I'm just looking at this from two sides of the coin. Good or bad. What's the intent here? Of all these channeled materials, that's becoming very popular. I think that's a fair question when we know that communism, Zionism, secret societies, New Age, New World Order, secret societies and all that are a huge agenda and are in motion like a freight train coming at us. Things are changing. William Mont, who puts out videos every day, says that 3 or 4 states in the United States have shut down last week, and it looks like the other states all over, all 50 of them, are going to have to shut down because of economic issues. All kinds of threats about President Donald Trump shutting down the healthcare system. Do you really think the president is going to make the whole world crash and burn for the rest of us? But there's a battle going on, and I think it's meant to distract us all, to create chaos and anarchy. to bring about the new age and the new world, to bring about the paradigm shift. And it says it in this material. When each of you can hold a frequency of information without freaking out and be counted upon to be consistent, then you anchor the frequency on the planet. So when they get everybody to think a certain way, a certain frequency, with those articles I just said about the press release that the gay acceptance in the USA is higher now than it's ever been, do you believe that? And how many people will believe it each day because they read it and the number keeps on increasing? There is a plan and it's in place. That frequency is recognized. It cannot be traced exactly, but it can be recognized, and it can be recognized now. That is why there has been a frenzied step up to alter the frequency. A frenzied step up to alter the frequency. Let me reinterpret that. They're moving faster ahead with this new age and new world order propaganda, this plan, this paradigm shift. You will see more frequency control everywhere you look. Only now you will be able to recognize it for what it is. I hope people can see it for what it is. Go look at the TV programming. Look at the satanic rituals, Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammys, Olympic openings. That demonic ceremony opening up the Swiss tunnel under the Alps. Clearly demonic. The beings were coming down from the ceiling with horns on. Katy Perry, one of her shows with horns on. Madonna, horns on. Lady Gaga. Miley Cyrus, Wrecking Ball. Allende Grande over there in London. Go look at these videos these people make. It's clearly right out of Indiana Jones, the ritual. You will see more frequency control everywhere you look. Only now you will be able to recognize it for what it is. If people want to really look at this and read line by line and consider the things I'm talking about, maybe they will see it for what it is. And there's many other people on YouTube and websites and writing books, as I've just shown you a couple at the beginning of this video. I've got 500 of them in this room I could have showed. A lot of them are trying to take us to this new paradigm. A lot of them are warning us about how the shift has been happening. World War I, World War II, Zionism, communism, Kabbalahism, mysticism, witchcraft, sorcery, psychic research, New Age, chakra systems, meditation, the Patriot Act, and much more legislation. The Constitution is a living entity. It's evolving and changing. So they want to change it. They want everybody to believe it should be changed. Why should it be changed? First thing they'll do is take out the amendment where everybody has the right to bear arms. Second thing they'll do is everybody will not have a right of free speech. If you make a video to tell the truth, you'll be guilty of treason. You'll be called an anti-government belligerent, a hater, an insurgent. You will find that all things in your life have been prepared for you step by step for what you will be doing. Information from the Pleiadians. So what right do the Pleiadians have to try to be messing with the minds of we the people on planet Earth? At one time perhaps you were a Boy Scout leader and learned how to work with young boys. Maybe at another time you worked in a restaurant and learned how to work with food and to serve. So they're really reaching with empathy here towards the common person. Though your jobs, you created certain aspects of reality so that later on, when you must teach these systems how to go beyond themselves, you have an idea where these humans are coming from. So they're saying you worked among the masses, you knew the masses, the material that this material is aimed at teaching. People who read these books or go watch her videos or her live lectures or the many other channelers. So here you are, a regular person out there working in a restaurant, whatever. So you know these other people. You will have an idea where these humans are coming from. We speak to you as if you are not human, because to us, you are not. So the channelers in the lecture room or on the YouTube or reading the book, we speak to you as if you're not human, because to us, you're not. Well, I'm certainly not buying that. I'm human, but I am also know I'm a spiritual entity in this biological body. But I'm listening and reading, hear what's on these pages. And I've watched some Barbara Marciniak videos. I made 4 other 2-hour videos or hour-and-a-half videos. Series 60, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. This will be part 5. And they'll be in a playlist, learning how to do the YouTube thing a little better. To us, you are members of the family of light. And we, least we forget, Lucifer is the light bearer. Lucas Trust, the name of the publishing company after they renamed it from Lucifer Publishing Company. Lucas Trust means light. And I showed you some books where they talk about coming into the light, getting closer to the light. A lot of aliens and beings on these craft were described as glowing entities, light beings. So it says here, you are members of the family of light, and we know your multidimensional selves. We speak to you about the dealings with humans because it is your assignment to integrate with them, soothe them, and awaken a spark of light within them so that they are not all destroyed. And so that this place can house planet Earth, a new species and a new realm of activity. You can see I even put a star on this one. So I wonder how many people just read this stuff and just pass over that. Don't get it. We have talked many times about the evolving DNA and the frequency modulation that has kept the species and the experiment controllable and manageable. You have been hired and on assignment from the future. So whoever's reading this or who they're lecturing to, you have been hired and on assignment from the future to catapult back into this cycle of existence. So as a spiritual being, before you were born, you were catapulted from the future back to this time of existence to incarnate, so to get into a baby, a body, to become a human, many times so that you can understand what has kept humans controlled. In this way, you can operate from the inside and change the systems. When you are in a battle with your logical mind, you are experiencing a conflict between the portion of yourself that is human, which has bought the story, and a portion of yourself that is the family of light, which has not bought the story and is learning about the bigger picture. So if the Pleiadians are channeling to you or anyone else and telling them who they really are, that they were catapulted from the future back here to teach humanity something. Do you believe that? Begin to realize that the portion of yourself that operates out of logic is teaching you something. It has given you a first-hand experience on how most of the population operates and first-hand knowledge of what you are going to have to work around to reach others. So now that you've been catapulted from the future to reincarnate on planet Earth, you need to reach others. If it were quite easy for you to move into intuition, using your psychic abilities, and operate there completely out of trust, and if you did not have this duality of understanding with the logical mind, In the long run, you would become very impatient with the rest of humanity. Oh my. So you have to be patient with the rest of we people so we can learn how to go from this one paradigm to this other paradigm. If it were easy for you, how could you possibly understand how difficult it is for others? Humans have been controlled by frequency for a long time. They are so used to this frequency control, that would be our current paradigm, our current way of thinking, and logical mind has been so overly developed in recent times that there is much suspicion and fear. A dark place of self that is so controlled that people are frightened to even go into it and trust that they could possibly receive information on their own. When you think of the entities, who have modulated the way humans broadcast, so some kind of entities were controlling we the humans, so it says here. And regrettably, I believe that. Why humans broadcast themselves by rearranging their DNA and instituting various scenarios and events upon this planet. And they have instituted various scenarios and events upon the planet. And with the communist and Zionist, that has been World War I, World War II, and many more events to advance the agenda for their global control. And then funneling the results of the psychic energy, this psychic energy, through different portals out into space for their own reasons. So apparently these entities that have been controlling Earth, as it says here, have been creating certain psychic energy and radiating it out into space for their own use. You can see what you are battling. There are those who want you and the whole planet to function in no other way but through logic. A very fearful logic. The best advice we can offer you at this time is to use that logic. Say, I will be in logic here for a moment and see what my logical mind is doing. I've also been told that this other stuff is true. I will simply observe how I waver between one and the other. So in this teaching, they want you to contemplate between the argument of this paradigm and the other paradigm. But of course, if you know anything about Toastmasters and other schools who teach people how to speak and write, they become so proficient in that ability that you could tell them that they were a Democrat and promote the Democratic Party. And they would do it quite well. But they were such a good writer and thinker being trained, you could then tell them the next day, you are a Republican. I want you to write a book or an essay or a lecture on why being a Republican is such a wonderful thing. And they can do it. And the next day they could say, well, the Republicans and the Democrats are all controlled. We want you to write an essay on being an independent and how good it is. And they could do that too. People are great at learning how to write things and say things to sway the mind in a logical manner. I'm saying this, not the book. I've studied this for a while. Am I angry? Am I insecure? What brings me upliftment? So the Pleiadians are saying to whoever reads this or a lecture, say these things to yourself. What brings me security? What does each mode of thinking do for me? What am I perceiving about myself? How am I feeling? You see how somebody who's intellectually trained on how to speak or write can reach anyone? Observe and acknowledge all of this. Then say, now that I've given everyone a chance to be on stage, what do I want? Reaffirm what you want, and you know you want to evolve. So they've got everybody convinced on planet Earth. I shouldn't say everybody, but lots of people. There's something called ascension. We're all evolving into these divine beings. We're all God. Do you believe that? Do you see how cycling back through doubt is actually part of the divine plan? It is part of understanding what others who will be following in your footsteps will go through. You must learn to open your compassion center and heart center, which is probably one of the most difficult things to do. Learn to feel compassion for yourself and for everyone else, and as you all have the courage to let it go and feel. It is very important to observe how you deal with events. Different events are brought to you so that you can observe them. Learn to observe your behavior and to spend much more time alone. Even if sometimes it is difficult for you and you feel lonely, in the long run you will thank us for directing you to have a more meaningful encounter with yourself. You hold the richness and ripeness that can bring forth you into higher realization. There is an order that you operate within that a part of yourself cannot see. There is an order that you operate within that part of yourself cannot see. That's true. Sometimes when part of yourself is operating without vision and seeing, events occur to get you back on track. I believe there's a guiding hand guiding us, but then again, which guiding hand? Be aware that in this new chaos of consciousness, that's what it says here, chaos of consciousness, this new chaos of consciousness, and confusion, and shifting of uncertainty, there is a divine order. This could be compared to baking a cake. Each ingredient in the recipe is of itself an integral whole, and has its own sense of, next page, structure. So sugar is sugar, flour is flour, water is water, and it's all just inert ingredients. So you stir it all up and throw it in an oven with some heat, and poof, you have a cake. So apparently this is the same way with our psychological thinking. Each piece combines to create the whole. So what are they trying to get people to think at the end of the day about this new paradigm? And of course, what about those people who refuse to accept it? Which is part of the Hegelian dialectic anyways, divide and conquer. And it seems since the 1960s and 70s, these elites who run the world have a high opinion that there are way too many people on the planet. They're obsessed with it. And they're doing all they can, it seems like right now, to reduce the population slowly and take away the wealth of individuals slowly, and our rights and freedoms slowly. For what end? So the magic of the catalyst, like making a cake, is heat. There is a catalytic energy present at this time on the planet, and all of us, the individual structures, each one of us, begin to melt and merge to create what looks like chaos. All right, moving along. By the way, I won't do a picture show right now, but if you take the keyword Pleiadian, Pleiadians, and go on the Yahoo image site, you will see a lot of images regarding the Pleiadians. And a lot of them will look like light beings. A lot of them will look almost human, like members of the Galactic Command, spaceships, all kinds of planets and New Age planet-looking drawings and paintings. It's quite fascinating. I've showed that in the previous Pleiadian videos. Go look it up. Pause the thing, take a break. Go on Yahoo, type in Pleiadian images, you'll find the site. Okay, so individual structures will begin to melt and merge to create what looks like chaos. There will be something new born out of this, just like a cake is born out of the chaos of mixing together certain ingredients. Someone who does not understand that after you mix cake batter, you better put it in the oven to bake. could look at the goopy batter and think that there's nothing made. Many people on the planet will not recognize that there is a higher order behind the chaos. So there's some kind of higher order behind the chaos going on today. World War I, World War II, 9/11, the current wars on Syria, and more destruction in the Middle East, and preparations for some kind of event all over the world, martial law, World War III, economic collapse, like William Mott said in his video today, and many other people are talking about. They are planning on crashing the system to bring about the things we're talking about here, that the Pleiadians are talking about through B Marciniak. Higher order behind the chaos. So who is this higher order? Is it Satan? Is it Lucifer? Is it Ra, Osiris, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill? Who are these entities in the invisible reality that are communicating through all these channelers today and throughout the past with the prophets and even the ones Jesus talked about? And even the Hindu and Buddhist religion talk about these beings. Shamans all over the world talk about these beings. If people need to get with any program, they need to wake up to that fact. There is a spiritual reality. We're all spiritual beings in these biological bodies. Jesus died, crucified on a cross, because the people back then rejected him. And he came exactly as it was told in their own prophecy. Crucified him. He even prophesied he would rise from the dead in 3 days, and he did. I guess he spent 60 days on the planet communicating with his apostles and other people before he ascended to heaven. Think about Edgar Cayce. Think about the evil character Aleister Crowley and his material I went over. Series number 23. Please go watch that. Seems to involve a lot of those beings in those Egyptian hieroglyphics. Zachariah Stitchin, Planet Nibiru, the return of the Anunnaki. Video I was watching yesterday said these Anunnaki beings who have been on this planet controlling the beings, our life, our planet, our well-being, humans, apparently are the people who are the kings and queens and popes and the elites on the planet. As David Icke would call them, the reptilians. Are the reptilians, are they the Anunnaki? Are they these beings connected with the invisible reality? Is there something we should all be aware about? Are they planning for a new age and a new world order? And is it going to be like the Hunger Games movie? And what will we say if we do nothing and it happens? How many people will say, we should have saw that coming? Each of you has a specific assignment within this recipe. Of course, you have free will to determine how you will follow the recipe and be an ingredient of it. So like I said, this writer who wrote this material, this entity who spoke through B Marciniak, was doing a great job, very convincing to a lot of people. This free will allows you to decide the specifics of how you would like your life. I'm starting to misspeak here after an hour. To be designed, although you must live out your blueprint. Whether you choose to do this with difficulty or with ease, in poverty or in richness, is up to you. Well, that's nice. It all depends on where you have been convinced to put your boundaries. So they're all trying to change our boundaries. In 2008, 33% of the planet, in the United States, I should say, people, were approving of gay marriage, and 60-something% were opposed. 30, 60, that's 90, so 33, 66, 65. And I noticed every year it gained a couple percent. But right along with that increase of people who approved it were the movies and the propaganda. And they said they didn't lose in their trying to convince people of this. The people just needed to be re-educated. And they have been re-educating right into the school systems everywhere, even the cartoons. We can say to convince you to take all of your boundaries down. says right here, take all of your boundaries down via the Pleiadians through B Marciniak. Thank you very much. So I guess the rest of us don't even know how to battle this. They got these beings on the other side communicating through people, telling them that they are God and they love them. They're going to ascend and evolve. They were catapulted from the future back here to do this. So it says here. To stop limiting what you believe can be yours. If there is anything we wish to achieve, it is to have each of you boundless and free, knowing that every thought you entertain somehow determines your experience. Wow. If we could get you to live 100% of the time according to what you want, we would feel that this has been a most successful year. Now, I'm thinking of Aleister Crowley, the Book of the Law, Do As Thou Wilt. And if you go read what he says in that book, you'll see that it's clearly evil. It isn't what Jesus told us when he was on earth of an added commandment. I read it in my video, the Gospel of St. John. The new commandment is to love one another. So how does that work in with do what thou wilt? We're going to ask each of you to make that commitment and to live a cleaner, more impeccable life. So now they're making it sound nice. We ask you to accept responsibilities in areas that you have not even thought of accepting responsibility. We want each of you to act as if you know what is going on. Act as if you are divinely guided in every choice you make, and begin to believe that you are always at the right place at the right time. Say to yourself, I am in divine guidance. I am always at the right place at the right time. Everything I do is orchestrated for my higher growth, my higher consciousness, and my higher evolution. We want you to operate in that way all the time now, by living keepers of frequencies. I thought it was keepers of the light, but light is frequency. When light is brought into your body, it fires your light-encoded filaments and helps rebundle your DNA, creating a frequency change. Frequency is what you know. Frequency is your identity. And I might add, with the cell phones and iPhones and iPads and Gwen towers and cell phone towers and satellites and TVs, digital, flicker rates, hidden signals, they're messing with our DNA. Sky spraying heavy metals in the sky, pulsing cities. They're aware of these technologies. I showed you some of the books at the beginning of this video. There have been periods when many different dimensions have existed upon this planet at the same time. In the last 1,000 years, there have been a receding of the many different dimensions as great chaos and darkness have come over the population. These dimensions or other realities or places where the laws of existence are a bit different are returning. Laws of existence that are a bit different are returning. In the Bible it says God doesn't change anything. But here it says the laws of existence, the physics, reality is changing. You help them return by pulling the dimensions onto this planet and creating what is called a dimensional merge. So this paradigm shift, this mind shift, this new thinking, this new age that is affecting many people all over the planet is bringing about some kind of dimensional merge. Now I do believe we create our own reality. So when they do all this propaganda, these movies, magazines, propaganda, press releases, on the whole scheme of things, they are changing slightly, a little bit every year. They're patient. Time is on their side. They don't look at this on the short term. It does change. And when people perceive reality slightly different, it affects the quantum field. I believe that. If you understand physics and electrons and molecules and projection, holographic images, the matrix. So they know what they're doing. They have the high technologies, which I prefer to call magic, sorcery, if they're using it for evil purposes. And through the mediums of Kabbalah and mysticism and all these secret societies and organizations and lodges all over the world, where if they, the initiates who get illuminated, divulge the secrets, they're threatened with having their throat cut and worse. Even their families murdered. And it's apparently infiltrated all of society. So professionals everywhere in the universities and the secret services, government jobs, high corporate jobs. A lot of people are afraid to step up and speak up when they know things are completely evil and wrong, like vaccines and other medicines for people and animals, GMO foods, chemicals, fluorides in the water, chemicals, metals dumped in the sky, aluminum. There's a battle going on. And I believe it has everything to do with this kinds of material. I think this material is part of the battle. That's my thinking. You can read the book and you may get a different answer. But I would like to say, I encourage people to go buy these books and read them. But think. I'm just doing one chapter out of 6-7 pages out of 241. Sometimes you move into these dimensions and do not recognize that you are in them. Remember, people are into yoga, meditation, changing the way they think, putting evil symbols on their bodies, tattoos and medals, symbols in their bedrooms, stuff they read, they look at, movies. So I believe they can be sucked into a different dimension or a different consciousness, altered consciousness. I think possession is real. I think you can change from a positive thinking person to a negative thinking person because of rationalization. You've been programmed in a lot of education to sway you to think you're doing the right thing. Jesus was just a myth, they teach. The Christians are now haters. The Arabs and Muslims are evil and all must be destroyed. The Russians intervened with the American election. I want to say, how many elections all over the world have the Americans interfered with? And NATO and the Pentagon and all these other secret societies, elitists, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberger Group, Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove, and so many more. This has been going on for 100 years, 200 years, Zionist, communist. So that argument is pretty weak to think that the Russians would get Trump elected instead of Hillary. And if they did, in my opinion, not that I'm a big fan of Mr. President Donald Trump, but I certainly wasn't a fan of the insane antics that came out of the Clintons and the accusations and how many people worked for them that routinely disappeared, died. Larry Nichols. Go look him up on YouTube and watch some of his videos. He was a handler for the Clintons. He tells all. There's plenty of material. He tells all. Alex Jones, and with many other talk show hosts. But I thought it was insane that they would even give us two people like casino owner and real estate magnate Donald Trump and screaming Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill Clinton back in the White House. Can you even imagine? Wonder what the Pleiadians had to do with all that. the beings from the secret societies, the Anunnaki, Archons, Nephilim, angels, demons, people from the other side, galactic command. So they say. We all need to put our thinking hats on and think. You entered an altered state, particularly when you go to a sacred site. I've heard of people go into sacred sites, like one lady went to the pyramids in Egypt, and her psychic abilities triggered in, turned on, when she did that. David Icke went to South America and took some kind of ayahuasca drug and went into a psychic state. You move in different dimensional frequency. So like even with Carlos Castaneda, I made a video on his book, This Separate Reality. You can look it up. You see this vision of another world that exists right on the same ground where you're standing now, like me in this room. If I took one of these drugs, it would be like an LSD trip, and you could see beings and things. Quite bizarre. There are multi-dimensions, I do believe. But when they're communicating through channelers like B Marciniak or all these other people, what are we to believe? And should we just believe whatever it says and blindly do what they say, think what they say, act like they say? You move in different dimensional frequency and everything changes. You feel uplifted and full of energy and sick to your stomach. Something goes on when you move into an altered state. So even with Carlos Castaneda in Mexico with the Shama in A Separate Reality, he talked about those effects, taking peyote. And even the Shamas down there in Peru, taking the ayahuasca, they talk about that. And so all over the world, apparently when you take these kinds of drugs, you throw up, you get sick, you get delirious, you go into this other reality. Later on, you find yourself waking up from unconsciousness and remembering everything that happened. Think of the Hopi Indians, the other Indians, and all their stories. Shamans all over the world. So the separate reality does exist. I acknowledge that. I believe that. But I'm not so sure the teachings in this material are meant to guide people to something good. It looks like the outcome will be just the opposite of that when you consider who controls the planet and who the publishers are of all this material, like Lucifer Publishing Company and Lucas Publishing Company, Helena Blavatsky, Annie Besant, Alice Bailey, and so many more, with the Theosophist Society, the Secret Doctrine, ISIS Unveiled, the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, communism, Zionism, socialism, sustainability, global warming, terrorism, and all this stuff with biological warfare. Yeah, this thing's going on. No doubt about it. Since you are in an altered state, you do not always know who you are. You are in it. That is the beginning of the dimensional urge. So now they're talking about, instead of having to take these drugs, peyote, ayahuasca, opium, alcohol, meditation, yoga, all this other Kabbalistic, mystic training, using a Merkaba, tools, computers, to get you in an altered state. Apparently we're going into a permanent dimensional merge. So that's probable and believable when you consider people can do it now. Prophets have been communicating with the invisible reality forever. Jesus turns water into wine, a couple pieces of bread and fish into enough to feed multitudes, raising Lazarus from the dead, raising himself from the dead, healing the sick, the lame, people with leprosy. So could we go into a permanent dimensional merge? Could our frequency of the planet be changed so that we can see this other world 24/7? And that some people will refuse and not join all the people who go along? And all the people who go along, like the Pinocchio movie, if you haven't seen it, you don't know what it's about, go watch it. The cartoon, the movie. Are they all being beguiled? Being led down the path with the Pied Piper to their doom, to their soul enslavement? Should we be thinking about these things? Should we be discussing it? Should we be concerned? It's July 4th today. 2:32 in the afternoon on this Tuesday. So I thought I'd just make this video. When you return home from a sacred site, you may look back and say, wow, what happened there? So what is it when people go to sacred sites like the pyramids and come away with psychic abilities, being able to see in the past and the future? There is a feeling of experience of different dimensions. Dimensional collisions are another story. Those who are gripped with fear and refuse to change, even though their purpose is to be on the planet at this time of change, will experience the dimension as collisions. So here we go. This is an interesting conversation. Dimensional change. So let's just say they use frequencies from these electromagnetic transmitters. So you don't need peyote, ayahuasca, and other drugs, or yoga, or meditation. They can shift. So everybody goes into this other change. Apparently, it's free will. You have to voluntarily go into it. But a lot of people will resist, as is mentioned in this book. This merge will hit them like a brick wall. They won't shift over into it. The dimensional merge for them will be like a solid wall of cement hitting another solid wall of cement. Great discomfort will occur on this planet for many. There is already occurring on a very small scale as discomfort in the nervous system. So they are doing things right now to create mental disturbances in most of us, if not all of us, at the current time. I don't know how it affects them, these secret elites, these people who are into this witchcraft and sorcery, trying to bring about this dimensional merge. This is already occurring on a very small scale as discomfort in the nervous system. So when was this book written? 1992. So what do you think? 9 years later, 10 years later, when they did 9/11 to bring about this paradigm shift, destroying all their countries and murdering a lot of people from the Middle East? You think it has anything to do with this? The hieroglyphics and the pyramids and the sacred sites all over the Middle East? You think the Pleiadians are involved in that? The secret societies? The mysticism? The witchcraft and sorcery? Great discomfort will occur on this planet for many. There is already occurring on a small scale as discomfort for the nervous system. People may develop disease of the nervous system simply because of their refusal to evolve and to change their stand about themselves and the reality. Thank you to the Pleiadians for sending this valuable information so that people who refuse to go along with this new age and new world order, transgenderism, pansexuality, and everything else, and deny Jesus and deny Christianity or deny Islam, deny Muhammad, deny Buddha, deny Hindu religion. It's going to be tough for those people who refuse to go along with this program. So it says here, all of you who are working with other humans Whether you are medical people, body workers, teachers, musicians, or whatever, understand that this is the human dilemma. The need to shift the definition of self and reality. Use your will and mind to decide how you would like reality to reconstruct itself. Use your will and your mind to decide how you would like reality to construct itself. Wow. So they say we are co-creators in some of these other channeled materials. Think about that. I'm looking for the common denominators. By doing this, you will eventually discover that there is a higher will and a higher plan, and you will ride your consciousness to it and discover the divine path. This divine path has in mind the evolution of consciousness. You, as a human species, have believed for eons what others have told you about yourself. As we have said, there has been a purpose to this. Others have wanted to control you. Strive as you would for attainment. It was difficult on the planet because the DNA was scattered and closed down, so no matter what you wanted, the vibrational connections were not available. And remember this, for the last couple hundred years and longer, the Zionist, communist, Jewish people, and this is in the Encyclopedia Judaica, anyways, they had a propensity, or a part of their culture, was to be involved in revolutions and to get the people to revolt against their own leaders. And I'm wondering, when I'm reading this stuff here, if it's not a similar type of plan. We'll be going over the Encyclopedia Judaica again and again on these issues: communism, Zionism, anti-Semitism, and activities in all kinds of countries, and their religion, the Kabbalah, the Zohar. We'll be looking at it with a fine-tooth comb, and I think we'll be seeing there is a huge difference in the religious outlook of the historical Jewish Kabbalah and the teachings of Christianity, Jesus, and other religions. It wasn't just in Christian nations that the historical Jewish populations experienced turmoil in the last couple thousand years. Oh, look right now what's going on in the Middle East. That's not a Christian endeavor. Those are mostly Muslims, Arabs, that their countries have been destroyed, the people have been murdered, and a lot of those people are forced out and sent all over the world in the middle of the night, United States, European countries, probably elsewhere. There is a plan, there are forces behind it. Make no mistake about that. Okay. Now that the vibrational connections are coming onto the planet, the divine plan, whose divine plan? Which you can think of as a grid or blueprint, is coming closer to Earth. Now I'm thinking about planet Nibiru. And the dimensions are going to meet eventually. So this other dimension that people can go take drugs now and go into right here on Earth, leave their body and go see with remote viewing and all kinds of other psychic tools. Apparently the whole thing is going to merge, so we'll all have that ability, at least all the people who will accept it because of free will. The people who will not accept it will hit this stuff like running into a brick wall, a cement wall. So it's said here. And apparently that means with those 30,000 guillotines, the people who don't swear allegiance to this other reality, Luciferianism, Satanism, will likely be rounded up and beheaded. Be one scary time on planet Earth if that comes about. When they are going to meet, this planetary interdimensional merging is up to you, so it teaches here. The divine plan is not scheduled to come here on a specific date. It depends on how quickly humans can meet the needs and master themselves. So I thought they were trying to bring it about on 2000, then 2012. They keep predicting these dates. What does it mean to master yourself? In order to understand the divine plan and move into the blueprint, you must look at yourself. You must be able to master who you are. There are many things in your society for which you must master a test in order to say, yes, I qualify. I have mastered these rules, and I utilize them and put them to my will. So is this kind of channeled material like a mass initiation? A watered-down version of the ancient initiations to illuminate people in secret societies? Has it gone public to worldwide? Making all kinds of books and videos and everything. Was that why the internet was created? How many of you can master your bodies and use them with your will? Very few. Why? Because no one told you it was possible. We are here to remind you of a number of things. Earth at this time is in a very difficult place to be. Simply because those who are coded to bring the changes onto the planet are coded to teach themselves. Alright, moving on here. You see, the problem on this planet over and over again has been the gods. One god after another. Who have the gods been? The gods created you. You are their project. You are dear to them. However, some of them you are not very dear to because they do not understand emotions and feelings. We've heard that a lot. Reptilians and other beings, gray aliens, they don't have any emotions and feelings. So the story goes, in many of the books I have. And some of them are enamored of different realities than you are. So some of these beings could really are very little concerned about us and our reality because their reality is just so much different. We're nothing more than cattle or bugs to them. Consciousness is allowed its expression, and you have been allowed your expression within limitation by those who have been governing you. From your point of view, you have never let them govern you, and you have no idea they exist. They bring dramas onto this planet in the guise of what you call religion, leadership, sometimes inspiration. So I believe there are entities, secret societies, into communications with other realities who have brought us all this chaos and anarchy, wars, death, murder, theft, and everything. And I suppose we, the people, need to wake up and take control of our own reality, knowing what we think about, we bring about. Because we could bring about the elimination of these entities and send them into another reality, instead of them forcing their way into our reality. They bring dramas onto your planet. We already said that. Events, even though they are orchestrated to achieve certain things, like 911, sometimes gather those who hang on, and many other probabilities come out other than what was intended. We want to communicate to you that there is a drastic change going on. Well, I think we all can agree on that. We cannot emphasize this enough. Earth is in for a big shakeup. That's what it says here, page 147. Go buy this book. Please, and share it. Read it. The earth is in for a big shakeup. I think we can all agree on that. You don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to see that. The shakeup involves humanity processing and conceiving of data that is totally out of the current paradigm. I believe that. This means that your nervous system will be assaulted with data. I believe that. HAARP radiations, chemicals dumped in the sky, genetically modified food, toxins in vaccines, fluoride in water, and so much more. These elitists own most of the major corporations that mass produce a lot of the processed foods we eat and stuff we drink. Rumsfeld went out of his way to force, what was that additive to soda? I have to think of the name of that. And must be able to unlock itself from how it believes it controls or perceives reality. The task for you, members of the family of light, that's what the Pleiadians are calling people who are studying this material. The task for you, members of the family of light, who have desired to take this information inside of yourself and to anchor a new frequency on the planet by anchoring it to the impeccability inside yourself. This is not easy. It was not meant to be easy. You did not come here to have an easy assignment. You are renegades. So now the people who join this material, listening to the Pleiadians, joining in this new paradigm shift, he's telling them, you are renegades. And you have always been renegades. If we could give each other of you a minute's worth of your multi-dimensional memories, you would know what we're talking about. You would know in the deepest portion of your being that time and time again, in different guises and different collections of form, you have gone where change needed to be anchored. So if there are a bunch of spiritual beings who have been incarnated on earth today, and they have gone to many other places where change needed to be anchored, where they wanted to bring about this paradigm shift, you have gone many times and busted the paradigms, liberated yourself. So they are calling it liberation, progressivism, and moved beyond where you thought your identity was. This is the divine plan merging the self. The divine plan has many ramifications and brings together many kinds of forces. You have heard us talk about the force of light, the force of darkness. We also want you to know that there is a grave seriousness to the game, and that in and around and above the game is the divine plan. So they're calling all this a game. Say that to the millions, beyond millions, World War I to the Middle East, who have been murdered in war and starvation and poisons, plagues, Africa, depopulation, Central, South America, American Indians, Middle East right now. And apparently the whole world, as per the U.S. Georgia Guidestones, where they say on the Rosicrucian stones, they want a world population of 500 million. The divine plan can be anchored as a vibration into certain human bodies that are coded for this, and they came here to carry this frequency. Then you can rise to your own blueprint of impeccability. Wow, so the people involved with this Pleiadian material are impeccable. Did you ever want to be impeccable? You want to join them? When your own life rises to a position where you do not even recognize it as your own life, when your own life rises to a position where you don't recognize it as your own life, to allow the energy of the non-physical realm to use you as a conduit. So these entities from the invisible reality, called spiritual beings, demons if you will, or angels, you're going to allow them to use you, your body, as a conduit. They're going to possess you. I read that this way. Go buy this book. How much of it is good for we the people on the planet, or how much of it is not good for we the people on the planet? I do my research and reserve my opinion for my own God-given brain to contemplate. Throw my own 2 cents here. I may be reading it differently. You may read it and want to join this paradigm shift and have these non-physical realms and entities use you as a conduit to merge the dimensions and liberate consciousness into a new way of perceiving. Even though there is death and destruction coming to your world, even though there is death and destruction coming to our world, remember that death and destruction come in the autumn every year on this planet. So they're saying in the wintertime the grass dies and the trees, leaves fall off and everything is seemingly dead. And then in the spring, everything comes alive. I'm immediately reminded of the Eurovision singing contest, like the American Idol. The song that Conchita Wurst sang was the Phoenix Rising. And if you know the story about the phoenix, it's the bird that has to die in flames so that it can be reborn. Anyways, the words in the song have, "You can't stop us." So anyways, people will think, get this, and I'll finish this video. Thank goodness the world is being destroyed here. This is the conclusion. Because then a new world will be created. All the beauty is being taken away. Understood that this is what is going on with the earth. So apparently they do intend on destroying everything on earth. It is a season, so it's just another season like winter, when some things will die so that many new things can be born. This is part of the divine plan. I'm not so sure I have to say anything more. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle Reporting.